Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in Legacy. Today we're looking at Ad Nauseam Tendrils and the Epic Storm, usually abbreviated to ANT and TES. Both are Storm combo decks that seek to cast many spells in the same turn and eventually cap off with a lethal Tendrils of Agony or Grape Shot. While ANT and TES aren't exactly the same deck, they're similar enough that I'm grouping them together. The differences tend to come in specific color and card choices, where ANT is primarily black and has access to tutors and hand disruption, whereas TES is primarily red, typically plays more colors than ANT, and has different rituals and wish targets. The main plan is to build a sufficient volume of mana rituals, sometimes by casting Ad Nauseam, then storm off and end the game with Tendrils or Grape Shot, although you can also win with other cards like AV Progenitor Ooze or Empty the Warrens. Typical rituals include Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual in ANT, Rite of Flame in TES, and Lotus Petal, with Lion's Eye Diamond also playing a role. You can also play other cheap spells like Chrome Mox or Mox Opal to generate a higher storm count. In ANT, Wishclaw Talisman, Infernal Tutor, and Dark Petition are all common ways to tutor for specific pieces you need. With Infernal Tutor, since you need an empty hand, you can cast it, hold priority, then cast your instant speed rituals or activate LED, typically for black or red mana. You'll often want to find either Ad Nauseam or Past in Flames to keep chaining spells. In TES, Burning Wish is the main way of finding your win con or other cards you may want access to, such as Abrupt Decay. The rest of the deck is made up of cantrips that dig for spells to maintain consistency and refuel during combo turns, namely Brainstorm, Ponder, and Preordain. Thoughtseize and Duress clear the way of counterspells to start comboing and are some of the few ways the deck has to interact mainboard. You can also cast Veil of Summer preemptively to protect future spells for the turn, or use Defense Grid or the backside of Malevolent Hermit to prevent the opponent from interacting with your spells. Unlike its modern counterpart, ANT has no way of living through 0 life since it doesn't play cards like Angel's Grace or Phyrexian Unlife. Thus, Ad Nauseam is limited by its random hits and however much damage you've taken before casting it, although the deck's low curve means that you'll probably still see a ton of cards. ANT and TES require a lot of reps to understand when and what cards you need to go off. If you're just picking up the deck, you should practice with it until you can comfortably intuit when and how to perform your combo turns. Sideboarding and how to beat it. Like many combo decks, you can't afford to cut too much and should generally just shave on certain cards. ANT and TES excel at beating decks that can't interact on the stack, although Force of Will is commonplace in Legacy, thus the need for hand disruption and protection. ANT and TES are weak to taxing effects like Thalia and anti-storm cards like Deafening Silence. Some amount of removal for various permanents is required. ANT and TES can also be hit by graveyard hate since they sometimes flashback cards with Past in Flames, use Threshold on Cabal Ritual, and so on. ANT and TES can fight through control decks either with protection cards like Veil of Summer or by overloading their ability to counter your spells with superior mana. Galvanic Relay in particular is great against control. Tips and tricks. Do the math first. Make sure you have enough mana and spells to go off before you start expending resources. To that end, it's important to figure out whether you can cast enough spells to enable the threshold on Cabal Ritual. Your combo turns aren't necessarily deterministic, and you can still fizzle without tutors or wish cards, but there are methods to win even if you don't have enough spells to reach 10 or more in a turn for Tendrils or Grape Shot, usually by pivoting to something else like AV or Empty the Warrens. Spells like Hurkyl's Recall, Chain of Vapor, and Echoing Truth can be used to bounce and replay your own 0 mana artifacts to add to the storm count. The flashback granted by Past in Flames only applies to cards that were already in your graveyard when you cast it. It's better to set up the combo so that you win the same turn you activate Wishclaw Talisman, since otherwise the opponent can get whatever they need. Similarly, if the opponent has main deck ways of answering Talisman, such as Prismatic Ending, you can hold off playing it until your combo turn. While you can't pay for anything in your hand with the mana from LED, since activating it makes you discard everything, you can use it to pay for flashback from Past in Flames, Wishclaw activations, or by holding priority with a spell on the stack if it's a draw spell or tutor. If you don't have Threshold for Cabal Ritual, you can cast it and hold priority to activate LED to get it. You can also do things like Cabal Therapy yourself to get Threshold or empty-handed for Infernal Tutor. If you're going to Brainstorm and then cast Ad Nauseam and the cards you put on top don't matter, choose the lowest mana value ones to save life. If you need to get rid of problem creatures like Thalia, you can cast Dress Down on the opponent's end step, untap, and keep it around for the rest of your turn to try and combo before the tax reappears. You can also kill smaller creatures like Thalia with Grape Shot. Dress Down effectively kills AV since, even though it doesn't stop the storm trigger, it erases the anti-legendary clause. It also stops AV from entering with a +1 counter. I hope you've enjoyed this look at ANT and TES. I want to thank my fellow players in the Magic community for whom sharing their experiences helps make these guides possible. You can find additional resources, such as an up-to-date deck list, in the description. If you think I left out anything important or got something wrong, please leave your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned to see what deck we look at next time.